The moment I pushed open the door to our house, I expected the usual silence of an empty living room, the faint tick of the clock marking time until her return. Instead, I was greeted by a reality I never saw coming. There she was, in the arms of another, her betrayal stark and unapologetic in the dim light of our living room. I'd come back early from my trip, eager to surprise her, but the surprise was all mine. Jessica, my voice cut through the room, heavy with disbelief. They sprang apart, her eyes wide, reflecting a mix of shock and fear. But I didn't wait for her stammered explanations, her pleas. The image before me spoke louder than any words she could muster. I stormed upstairs, my mind racing, a whirlwind of hurt and anger clouding my thoughts. Packing my bags was a blur. Each shirt and pair of jeans thrown in was a memory, a moment of what I thought was a shared life. I was leaving it all behind, the lies, the deceit, our home. The drive to nowhere was long, aimless. Eventually, I found myself in a new city, a place where no one knew my story, my heartache. It was a chance to start fresh, to bury the pain under layers of new experiences and ambitions. I dived into my work, letting it consume me, using it as a balm for the wounds that refused to heal quickly. Day turned into night, weeks into months. My dedication paid off. Promotions came knocking, and with them, a sense of achievement I hadn't felt in years. I was rebuilding myself, piece by piece, my career the cornerstone of my new identity. Then, as fate would have it, I bumped into an old college buddy, Mike, at a coffee shop. His familiar face was a bridge to a past life, one before the chaos. Mike introduced me to his friends, a lively bunch that welcomed me with open arms. Nights out, weekend barbecues, laughter. They filled the void I hadn't realized was growing inside me. With each passing day, the city felt less like a hideout and more like home. I found myself smiling more, the weight of the past slowly lifting. These new connections, this new life, it was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. I was moving on, leaving behind the shadows of a love that turned out to be an illusion. In the midst of the hustle, I could almost forget her, the pain. Almost. But as the city lights twinkled below my apartment window each night, a part of me wondered about the road not taken, about the life I'd left behind. Yet looking ahead, I knew I was where I needed to be, on a path of my own making, towards a future that was mine to shape. The city skyline was a painting of ambition and dreams, and I was a brushstroke in its vast canvas. It was during one of these contemplative evenings that I heard the whispers about Jessica's downfall. People talk, they always do, about how her life was unraveling at the seams. But I had my own tapestry to weave. I let the rumors float away like leaves in the wind, uncaught, unacknowledged. Life, as it tends to do, rolled on. It was in the midst of this new existence that I met Elise. She was the antithesis of everything my past life represented. We bumped into each other at a local bookshop, reaching for the same novel. That serendipitous encounter spun into coffee dates and movie nights. We kept it light, casual, a mutual understanding unspoken but agreed upon. But even as I explored these new avenues, echoes of my old life resurfaced. Jessica tried to reach out. Calls, texts, emails, a digital deluge trying to breach the dam of my resolve. I ignored them all. That chapter of my life was closed, sealed, and shelved away. Amidst this personal chaos, my professional life soared. The promotion came like a thunderclap of validation. My boss shook my hand, pride and respect in his eyes. I had become a key player in the company, my name synonymous with dedication and innovation. The city wasn't just a refuge anymore. It was a kingdom where I was slowly but surely claiming my throne. Then something unexpected happened. What started as a ripple with Elise turned into a wave. Our casual dates became frequent, our conversations deeper, our connection stronger. I found myself waiting for her calls, looking forward to our dinners. It was a slow, creeping realization that hit me one evening as we walked along the river, the city lights dancing in her eyes. This was no longer just a fling. It had morphed into something meaningful, something serious. It was a crossroads paved with possibilities and risks. The scars of my past were still tender. Yet here I was, standing at the brink of something new, something that felt dangerously close to happiness. It was a gamble, stepping into the unknown with someone new. But isn't life itself a gamble? As the city fell asleep and the night deepened its embrace, I found myself at peace with the tumultuous tides of my life. The past, with its pain and betrayal, was a shadow growing fainter in the bright light of my present. And as for the future, it was unwritten, a story waiting to be told. I was ready to turn the page, ready to embrace whatever came next. It was a typical Tuesday evening. The city buzzed outside my window, a symphony of urban life, as I settled into the comfort of my apartment. That's when my phone rang, shattering the calm. The number was unknown, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello? The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. Mr. Evans? My name is Robert Hale. I'm a private investigator hired by your ex-wife Jessica. I stiffened, a sense of unease creeping in. What does she want now? I asked, keeping my tone guarded. Robert hesitated, then continued. She's in trouble, Mr. Evans. Financial ruin, legal issues. She thought you should know. The news hit me like a wave. Memories long buried resurfaced. But the pain they once held seemed distant, like echoes of another life. I had moved on, hadn't I? Thanks for letting me know. But that's her business, not mine, I replied before ending the call. I sat there for a moment processing. Jessica's plight stirred something in me. A mixture of schadenfreude and a faint residual concern. But it was Elise's face that came to my mind, her smile that brought me back to the present. Elise and I had grown closer, our relationship evolving into something deep and real. One night, over dinner, she broached a subject I wasn't ready for. Do you ever think about marriage? She asked, her eyes searching mine. I hesitated, caught off guard. The word marriage echoed in my head, a haunting reminder of a past best forgotten. I haven't thought about it, I stammered, avoiding her gaze. Elise's expression faltered, but she didn't push further. The topic hung between us, an unspoken tension that neither of us dared to unravel. My past with Jessica had left scars, invisible yet potent, making the idea of remarriage feel like stepping back into a minefield. Then, as if the universe had a sense of irony, I received a wedding invitation from an old college friend. Holding the elegant card, memories of my own wedding flooded back the joy, the hope, and ultimately, the crushing disappointment. It was a strange juxtaposition, my past colliding with my present. On one hand, there was Jessica, a reminder of failed promises and pain, now in a pit of despair. On the other, there was Elise, a symbol of newfound love and potential happiness, yet shadowed by my reluctance to commit. As I lay in bed that night, the city's heartbeat pulsing in the background, I realized the complexity of life's tapestry. We weave new patterns while threads of the past linger, entangled. The call from the investigator, Elise's question about marriage, the wedding invitation, they were all strands of a larger picture, one I was still trying to figure out. In the quiet of the night, I knew one thing for certain: my journey was far from over. The road ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but it was mine to travel, one step at a time, with the past as a teacher and the future as an unwritten promise. I never expected to see her there, not at this wedding, not in this chapter of my life. Yet, as fate would have it, there she was. Jessica. The same eyes but dimmer, the same poise but fractured. She was a ghost from a past I thought I had left behind, now standing in front of me, very much real and very much distressed. The wedding, which should have been an evening of celebration and joy, turned into a surreal encounter. I tried to keep my distance, but it was as if the universe conspired against me. Our paths crossed, unavoidable and inevitable. She approached me, hesitantly at first, then with a sense of desperate determination. Can we talk? She asked, her voice a mix of hope and weariness. I could have said no. Part of me screamed to walk away, to leave the past buried. But another part, perhaps curiosity or some remnant of old affection, nudged me to nod. We found a quiet corner, away from the laughter and music. Sitting across from her, I braced myself. She looked worn, the sharp edges of her life's crises etched into her face. I've changed, I really have, she began, her voice trembling. I've hit rock bottom, financially, socially. Everything's fallen apart. Her words painted a picture of complete collapse. Bad investments, betrayed friendships, legal troubles, a litany of misfortunes and missteps. As she spoke, I saw glimpses of the woman I once loved, now humbled by life's harsh lessons. Then came the plea I never expected. Can you forgive me? Could we ever start over? Her eyes searched mine, seeking redemption, or perhaps just a lifeline. It was a lot to take in. The woman who once betrayed me, now asking for forgiveness, for a second chance. A part of me felt vindicated seeing her brought low. But there was no joy in it, no sense of triumph. Just a profound sadness for what had been and what could never be again. Forgiveness is a complex beast. It doesn't erase the past or undo the pain. As I looked at her, I realized that while I could forgive, I could never forget. The scars were there, a permanent reminder of a trust broken. I can forgive you, Jessica, I finally said, the words heavy but sincere. But I can't go back. We can't go back. The finality of my words hung in the air, an invisible barrier between us. She nodded, a silent acceptance of a truth both of us knew but only one of us had the courage to acknowledge. We parted ways that evening, two people with a shared history, now walking different paths. As I watched her leave, a part of me felt lighter, freed from a weight I didn't realize I was still carrying. The wedding resumed its festive air. But for me, it was a bittersweet reminder of life's unpredictable nature. Love, loss, and forgiveness, they all danced together in the grand ballroom of life, each taking a turn to lead. As I rejoined the celebration, the music a little less jubilant in my ears, I knew that this encounter was a closing of a chapter. I was ready to embrace the next, whatever it may bring, with a heart a little wiser and a spirit a bit more resilient. Life, in its unpredictable rhythm, had thrown me yet another curveball. After the painful encounter with Jessica at the wedding, I thought that chapter was closed. But it was far from over. I had made my stance clear, refusing to rekindle what was irrevocably burnt. Yet, it seemed Jessica wasn't ready to accept that. Started subtly at first. A glimpse of her at the coffee shop across my office, a figure that looked eerily familiar near my apartment. I brushed it off as coincidence, but the frequency of these coincidences grew, sending a clear message she was following me. Elise noticed it too. There's that woman again, outside the restaurant, she'd say, a frown creasing her usually calm face. The presence of my ex-wife, like an unwanted shadow, began to loom over our relationship. Elise, who had been nothing but understanding and supportive, started to show signs of unease. I just don't get why she's doing this, Elise would say, her voice tinged with worry. Neither did I. Jessica's behavior was unsettling, to say the least. Her desperation was manifesting in ways that were hard to ignore, and even harder to explain. The situation escalated when Jessica showed up at my office. Her appearance was disruptive, causing a scene that had my colleagues whispering and my boss raising eyebrows. That was the last straw. I needed to put an end to this, not just for my peace of mind but for the sake of my relationship and professional life. Filing a restraining order felt like a drastic step but necessary. The process was straightforward yet emotionally taxing. As I sat in the starkness of the legal office, pen in hand, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. This was not how I envisioned the aftermath of our once loving relationship. However, the restraining order seemed to fuel her determination rather than deter it. Jessica violated it within a week, showing up at my doorstep one rainy evening, soaked and distraught. It was a scene right out of a dramatic movie, except it was my life and it was far from entertaining. Her arrest followed. The police came and with them, a wave of mixed emotions. There was relief certainly, but also a deep-seated sadness. Watching her being led away in handcuffs, the woman I once shared my life with, was a sobering sight. That night, as I sat with Elise, trying to offer explanations that I myself didn't fully understand, I realized the extent of the impact this ordeal had on us. Elise's hand in mine was steady, but I could feel the undercurrent of tension, the unspoken questions about whether this drama was truly over. As we tried to settle back into our routine, the shadow of Jessica's actions lingered. It was a reminder of a past that refused to stay buried, its tendrils reaching out to disrupt the present. But amidst the turmoil, there was a silver lining, a bond that Elise and I were forging, strengthened by the trials we were facing together. In the quiet of the night, as the city buzzed outside, I pondered over the fragility of relationships and the strange ways life unfolds. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the past, no matter how hard it tries, would not define my future. You'd think that after everything, the universe would give you a break, right? Wrong. Just when I thought things couldn't get more twisted, the media got hold of my story. And let me tell you, they had a field day. My face, once just another in the crowd, was now splashed across the news, fueling a scandal I never signed up for. It's strange how fast things change. One minute you're just a guy living his life, and the next you're the talk of the town, and not in a good way. The stories were sensationalized, of course. Love triangle turns toxic, the headlines screamed. Every private detail of my past with Jessica, along with the recent chaos, was laid bare for public consumption. Privacy? That's a joke. This media circus wasn't just humiliating, it started eating away at my professional life too. I could feel the change in the office, the sidelong glances, the hushed conversations when I walked in. My boss, who'd always been a straight shooter, started giving me these looks like I was a liability. My stellar performance at work, the late nights, the successful projects, none of that seemed to matter now. It was all overshadowed by a scandal I didn't even create. Then came the hardest blow. Elise. She tried, I'll give her that. She stood by me longer than most would have. But the chaos, the constant media attention, it was too much. I can't do this anymore, she said one evening, her voice breaking. Her eyes, once filled with warmth when she looked at me, were now clouded with distress. It's too much, the drama, the threats, everything. I'm sorry. And just like that, the best thing in my life walked out the door. Oh, and the threats. Let's not forget those. Anonymous messages started popping up. Texts, emails, even a nasty note left on my car. Watch your back, read one. You'll get what you deserve, said another. Who sends these anyway? Disgruntled fans of dramatic news stories? People with too much time and too much hate? I don't know. The icing on this disastrous cake was the night I came home to find my house vandalized. Windows smashed, front door graffitied, the works. Standing there looking at the mess, I felt something shift inside me. Fear, anger, helplessness, it was all there boiling over. My home, my refuge, was now just another place where I didn't feel safe. That night I didn't sleep. How could I? Every creak and groan of the house had me on edge. I was caught in this whirlwind of scandal, threats, and loss, and I had no idea how to get out. So there I was, sitting in the ruins of what used to be my peaceful life, trying to piece together how everything went so wrong. It's funny, in a not so funny way, how life throws curveballs. You think you've got it all figured out, and then bam, the ground slips from under your feet. But you know what? I was down but not out. The night might have been long and dark, but somewhere out there, the sun was getting ready to rise on a new day. And I was determined to be standing when it did. When your life turns into something resembling a bad spy movie, you know things have gone off the rails. That's exactly where I found myself, hiring a private security team just to feel a smidgen of safety. Yeah, you heard that right. Me, a regular guy who used to worry about deadlines and what to watch on Netflix, now had bodyguards. But even with these guys around, the threats escalated. It felt like being in a pot slowly coming to a boil. I couldn't help but suspect Jessica's hand in this. It seemed like her brand of revenge, cold, calculated, and relentless. I needed answers. Visiting her in jail wasn't something I looked forward to, but it was necessary. The meeting was tense, to say the least. She sat there in her orange jumpsuit, denying everything. Why would I do that? I have enough problems as it is, she said. Her voice a mix of anger and frustration. I wanted to believe her, but trust was a bridge burned long ago. Leaving the jail, I felt more confused than ever. But things were about to get even more bizarre. A mysterious figure started tailing me. It got to glimpse us. A shadowy form in a trench coat. A fleeting reflection in a store window. It was like being in a cheesy detective novel. Only it was my life and I wasn't enjoying the plot. Enough was enough. I decided to play detective myself. If the police couldn't get to the bottom of this, maybe I could. It was risky, sure, but I needed answers. My little investigation led me to a group of people, all victims of Jessica's manipulative schemes. They were angry, hurt, looking for someone to blame. And guess who fit the bill? Yours truly. Apparently, they believed I was in on Jessica's cons. It was ludicrous, but in their eyes I was guilty by association. I tried explaining, reasoning, but their minds were set. Their leader, a burly guy with a scar across his cheek, gave me a chilling warning. Leave the city or else. Yet, it was that kind of conversation. But I wasn't about to be intimidated. I dug deeper, sneaking around, eavesdropping, the whole spy routine. It was during one of these escapades that I stumbled upon something, evidence that could clear my name. But it was like picking up a live wire. This information wasn't just a ticket to my exoneration, it put me right in the crosshairs. Sitting in my apartment, staring at the evidence, I realized the gravity of my situation. I was dealing with people who had nothing to lose, and they wouldn't hesitate to take me down if it meant getting their revenge. It was a crossroads moment. Back down and live in fear, or stand up and fight for my innocence. I chose to fight. It wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. It was about standing up to a tide of injustice that threatened to sweep me away. I was tired of being a pawn in a game I didn't choose to play. It was time to turn the tables, to take control of my narrative. So there I was, a regular guy turned unwilling detective, about to dive headfirst into a battle against a faceless enemy. It was daunting, sure, but I wasn't going to let fear dictate my life anymore. The night was dark and the path ahead uncertain, but one thing was clear: I wasn't going down without a fight. There's something about desperate times that makes you do things you never thought you'd do. For me, it was trusting a journalist to blow the lid off this entire twisted saga. I had the evidence, solid proof that could clear my name and expose the group that was making my life a living hell. So I set up a meeting, feeling like a character in a spy thriller. Only the stakes were my real life. But, as luck would have it, things went south even before they had a chance to go anywhere. En route to the meeting, I felt that eerie sense of being watched. Before I knew it, I was cornered in an alley, the faces of my ambushers as angry as a stormy sea. They were from the group, no doubt about it. The confrontation was fierce, and in the chaos, the evidence I had painstakingly gathered was destroyed. So much for my moment of triumph. There I was, standing in a trash-strewn alley, my last hope in tatters, feeling more cornered and alone than ever. The thought of just packing up and leaving the city crossed my mind more than once. Maybe it was time to cut my losses, to run away from this never-ending nightmare. But then, something unexpected happened. An old friend from my past, someone I hadn't seen in years, reached out. Turns out he'd been following my story. "I can help you," he said, his voice a lifeline in the storm. It was a glimmer of hope in a sky that had been dark for too long. Together we hatched a plan. A sting operation to catch the group leaders red-handed. It was risky, downright dangerous even, but I was past caring. I wanted to end this one way or another. The operation was something out of a crime drama. Hidden cameras, whispered codes, the adrenaline of the hunt. It was all going smoothly until it wasn't. In the heat of the moment, as we cornered the group leaders, my friend got injured. The sight of him taking a hit for me, for this crusade against my injustices, was both heart-wrenching and eye-opening. Despite the setback, we succeeded. The group was captured, their crimes laid bare for all to see. The headlines the next day were a stark contrast to those from weeks before. My name was cleared, the truth finally out in the open. But, you see, vindication doesn't always feel like victory. The ordeal had taken its toll. I looked around at the life I had built in this city, now a minefield of memories, each step a reminder of the nightmare I'd lived. So, I made a decision. It was time to leave, to start over somewhere new. The city had been my battleground, my place of triumph, but also my prison of paranoia and fear. I needed a clean slate, a place where the shadows of the past couldn't reach me. As I packed up my life, the weight of everything that had happened settled in. The betrayal, the fear, the fight, it had changed me. I was leaving the city, but the scars, they were coming with me. They say time heals all wounds, but some scars, they're a reminder of battles fought and survived. Heading out of the city, the buildings fading in my rearview mirror, I realized something. Life's a journey with no clear maps. We make our way through it, bruised but not broken, stronger for the battles we've fought. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready for whatever lay beyond the horizon. Fresh starts aren't easy, but they're a chance to rebuild, to redefine, and most importantly, to heal.